Arteta! What a strike! What a screamer! Zola! And a fantastic goal! Arsenal back in it! And here's Limpar, lines it up, finds the net. Arsenal are in front.
Hi, I'm Elliot Smith, and I'm here to tell you about Arsenal's new charity supporting small clubs all around the world. Are you a small club? Are you craving a big night? A night that you can call one of the biggest in your history? Maybe you're from a far-flung Eastern European nation, or maybe you're sitting mid-table or lower down the league in a smaller league in Europe. Perhaps you're a lower-tier team in England, and you're looking for a big night out in a domestic cup competition. Well, here at Arsenal, we're happy to give you one of the greatest nights in your club's history. Just ask some of our previous sponsors, people like Bradford, or Ostersunds, perhaps Bate Borisov, or even Rennes. These are clubs that Arsenal's charity have helped, and they can help yours in the future. Just get in touch to have a big night out for your small club in the future. This is the Arsenal Vision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. That's right. We love handing out big nights in club history for small clubs, and we've done it again for Rennes Football Club, giving the chance for Hatem Ben Arfa to mouth off, which, let me tell you, if that isn't salt in the wounds, I don't know what is. But the man who claims he's going to settle me down, I doubt it. We'll see. Is Clive. You can find him on Twitter at ClivePAFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Paul will be on down the line, so we're going to split this up, have a couple of conversations. Tim gets the day off, and I think it is fair to give Tim the day off as it is his lovely wife's birthday, so we all wish her a very happy birthday, and thanks to Arsenal for the wonderful birthday present. So, Clive, let's do this two ways. Let's take the segment of the game where things were going well, talk about that a little bit, because I think some of the things we saw during that segment may have a bearing on the return leg. And then we'll talk about the part of the game that didn't go so well, which was the rest of it, and what that means, and maybe then look ahead to Manchester United a little bit. But I want to start with just sort of a 30,000-foot view for a minute. In your estimation, just really quickly, sitting here right now at 3-1 down in the tie, give me your sort of percentage chance that you think we'll turn it around and get through.
66% chance.
You know that our stats man Scott has it at 30%, right?
Yeah, I say 60%, and the numbers may tell you different, but the way I looked at that first 30, 40 minutes, it was almost too easy. And sometimes, an early goal can give you a false sense of security. I thought we scored from literally our first sort of attack. Then we created 2 or 3 more chances, and they weren't really hard to create. And I just think we just thought this is going to be easy. I rewatched the first half today, and there was nothing there. They had nothing. They weren't anywhere near us pressing-wise. We had passing lanes to play into. Iwobi was looking like Neymar on the left-hand side.
He was brilliant, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and we missed him when he went off.
Yeah, I think that was Sunday's game in the manager's head. Let's talk about that later. But but yeah, I just thought this is easy. This is great, and I think that seeped into some players' heads. I rewatched it again. When we watched it live, I caught literally from just after the sending off. So I'm looking at Socrates. I'm thinking, okay, let's see if there was a temperature rising on this. Let's see what you did. And I watched him. I don't think he even hardly touched the ball to about the 24th minute, let alone make a tackle. He just wasn't in the game. There was just no need. It was so easy. It was too easy. Yeah. And I think if we made a mistake, and it's a hindsight thing, when Torreira had that shot from Iwobi's cutback, that goes 2-0. Then we have a different game. And it comes back to
there was the Mustafi miss too. There was the offside that when Aubameyang was clearly onside, and while in his current form, you'd put more money on him to put it in the car park, but I do think he would have scored from that position. And all of those situations at 2-0, first of all, even if they turn it around, you're in a much better situation. I don't think they would turn it around from that point. And to your point, when you watch, it reminds me of some of these games in the Premier League when you're playing a lower tier team, and you're all over them, you're on top of them, you get an early goal, and it feels like it's going to be easy. And then something happens where they get back in the game and you're not expecting it. It can be difficult to change mentality to that siege mentality when you've had it all your way. And I definitely agree with you that being so on top of them and having it so easy and having the away goal so early and having so many chances, I don't think it only got in the players' minds. I think it got in Emery's mind. Emery, we know, has a tendency to be conservative, but I think that when we went down to 10 men, we had been creating so many chances that he's like, screw it, I'm just going to kill this tie here. Let's get a second, let's get a third. Because if you remember, right after they equalized, we still created a couple of rapid-fire chances right after that, and then the game really started to turn. But I think Emery and the players both maybe had more aggressive a mentality after we went down a man and found it difficult to switch their mindset to what we hold because we had been so on top of them.
Yeah, I think we fell into the trap of maybe slightly underestimating them, and we sleptwalked into this. And we do this at times. I know we're fans. I know we're nervous, and we want every shot to go in. But there was a couple there. You think, come on, guys, this is important. We watched the penalty missed last weekend, and then in contrast, we watched the Rashford penalty in the last minute against Manchester United. And Arsenal fans, we project back onto ourselves, right? We're just human beings, and at the moment we're questioning our efficiency in the opposing box. We're questioning that, and because it does matter. These are important details. We're having too many traumatic games from positions of strength, and we're not quite maximizing where we are form-wise. And eventually, what we tend to do, if there's a hole to throw ourselves into emotionally, we'll find it and we'll throw ourselves there. Whether we have a big result, we'll think, well, we do a lap of honor and fall off. If we have a bad moment, we'll find a hole to throw ourselves into and be emotionally weaker than we were the week before. And I've got a little concern about our reaction to that Spurs game as a club. The first game when we played Spurs, I felt we over-celebrated. I'll be straight with you. I enjoyed it like anybody else. As a club, we over-celebrated, and our form flatlined thereafter. I'm hoping, Elliot, that after this Spurs away game, that we suddenly don't find a reason to feel sorry for ourselves. I'm not just talking about the striker missed the penalty. I mean, collectively. This is where we need to come together collectively as a team and step our performance up, right? And don't find a reason to fall away. And I'm telling you, I'm not so sure where we are in that regard. And if you often hear Emery talk, what does he talk about a lot? Apart from the tactical side of football, he always mentions the word mentality. Mentality. And the reasons why that's so important, I got a guy on Twitter this week killed me. He sort of said, Clive, he said, there's more to the game than just mentality, And I went, yeah, mate, I know this. But what you have to realise as a fan, and I've seen this live, all these players can play. They can play. My mind was changed once. I went to watch Arsenal train, and I watched Kieran Gibbs in training, a player I used to silently criticise. When I saw him close up in training, and I saw his technique, I saw his ability on the ball, I saw him control the ball without ever looking at it on the sixpence. And I'm thinking, that's Kieran Gibbs. That's a player that we'd say has got average technique from the outside, and he can play. The issue is your ability and mentality to apply your talent, and that's what differentiates the top players from just the top players.
Yeah,
and that is why it's so important. That's what coaches work on. It's all about the intangibles, the mentality to apply the talent. The talent is there at the top level. It really is. And you can see players peak and trough based on their mental approach to the game. And we've seen that in the last week, with certain players in our team. And we see it in this game. We see a team that's overconfident, a team that has to change momentum, a team that lacks a little bit of game management. And suddenly we go into the next leg 3-1 down.
Yeah, well, I think, there are certain things where we can feel sorry for ourselves a little bit. I mean, I do think that the offside call really hurt us. I think that Torreira was unlucky that it was straight at the keeper. Yeah, I mean, he struck it well. Mustafi just missed, across the goal, a chance that was pretty presentable. And you're going to be shocked to know I don't really blame him there. The Socrates thing was weird for me, Clive. Look, I hate to go down these rabbit holes of like conspiracies and stuff, okay? Who am I kidding? I love them. I think Socrates has been really, really, really good for us. Yeah. He ran around that pitch like he didn't want to be on it. He was kicking people every chance he got. He kicked one guy right in his butthole. I have probably never said butthole on the podcast. It felt kind of liberating. I enjoyed it. Butthole. Kicked him in his bottom, in his arsehole, like right square in it for no reason. And then he does get sent off in what was maybe a little bit divey soft, but like even just the way he challenges there, I think he's smarter and cleverer than that. I mean, did you feel watching Socrates' hair around the pitch in that first half and the way he was going after people that he was asking for it from a referee who, right from kickoff, the commentators made the point, this is a referee who is very free with his yellow cards?
Yeah. You know what, mate? I think you've got half a point there. I think he's actually bored. I'll take it on a step further. He was bored. Elliot, I'm telling you, I've just watched the game. The first few minutes of that game, he had nothing to do. He was looking for something to do. Seriously, he was looking for work. He was just looking to get into the game.
And that's an unusual situation for an Arsenal central defender.
It is. He's looking for work. He's bored. And again, if you think about this week as a player, and this is where sometimes you do need a level of rotation, right? So you've got 3 games in 8 days, 7 days looking at you, right? You got Spurs away. You got this little team in France called Rennes on the Thursday, and you got Manchester United at home. Tell me what your brain's telling you, right? You're just a human. Your brain's saying, I'm up for that Spurs game.
In American sports, they call it a trap game. It's the lower game between 2 really big rivalry games.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I've never heard that saying before. So your brain, what's your brain telling you as an athlete, as a professional? Your brain saying, that's Spurs game. We got to be up for that. And they were. They were so up for it until we misstaffed the game away, right? And so that none of us were moaning. We were all really pleased, apart from the final detail and the fact that we lost a massive celebration Saturday drink, what we should have had, right? So that's where we were frustrated. Then we go into this game and we got Manchester United coming up and it's all about the top 4. What does your brain say? Your brain says, I may not be quite up for this game. And then we get an easy start. You think, you know what? I can just play this game out. And I think that's what Socrates was doing. I think a number of players are doing that. And some people were playing well, like Ozil. You know, I thought he was doing fine. He always seems to have a level of consistency, although he does not end games well. And maybe this was the game to have a little bit of rotation. But then you're now trusting people that potentially what's become to my mind this week is that maybe there's a trust issue with some of those people on the bench. And by that, the 2 in particular, Maitland-Niles and Eddie Nketiah. You know, I'm thinking to have some fresh legs in this game.
And Denis Suarez, remember him?
And sorry, Elliot, great shout. And Denis Suarez. You know, just have some fresh legs. You can always replace them. We share games. It's not a problem. Trust them. Because if you don't trust them, you lose them. If you're Eddie Nketiah right now, as a footballer, you know your pecking order. You know when it's your time. We've lost Lacazette. Aubameyang's thrown himself into a hole emotionally. We need to make a change. We need to have some legs in the final part of the pitch. Surely you can send on Eddie, an 18-year-old, to give us an outball late in the game. No, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put Kolasinac up front. Right? I'll put him in the higher part of the pitch. I'll ask him to try to triple up cover on the left-hand side because we're getting ripped down that side by Ismail Sarr. So that, to me, means we've now lost Eddie. And we've now lost him emotionally. We've lost him. And Emery did mention his name in the post-match interview, which means for him to mention his name, he knows he made a mistake there. He made a mistake because we look muddled. We had no balance. We had players running forward and nowhere to pass to and turning back on themselves. And we were having to play in areas where Rennes wanted us to play. And I thought it was very poor. You know, I'm a supporter of the manager and I love the way he moves things around. But, mate, he got that badly wrong.
I think it is very, very difficult to switch from basically playing fun attacking football against a team that doesn't feel like they're at your level and you're already 1-0 up to all hands to the pump defensive effort. And I don't think we reacted to it well, and I don't think the manager reacted to it well. I think we have to talk about a couple of individuals here. I know that's your favorite thing to do. One of them's Iwobi. I thought he was brilliant. You know, he obviously scored the goal. I don't think he was intending to score there, but when the ball's that good, you get the reward from it. Would have been nice if it had actually been a slightly worse ball so Aubameyang could tap it in. Might have changed our whole night. But there you have it. He got free down that side quite a bit. He was holding the ball up really well. Ozil, who I thought had a rough first 20 minutes, came to life subsequently before the sending off. He puts Iwobi clean through again. I also thought Iwobi's performance early was so important because it kept Sarr from being able to be a bigger influence in the game, because Iwobi's raids meant that Sarr had to suck back and couldn't be as free to attack.
Agreed.
He is a player that has divided opinion at times, but I think we're seeing his importance. And when Aubameyang plays up front, is it me or is Iwobi sort of playing almost the role of the 9 in the hold-up sense? He becomes our out ball, and I thought we missed that when it was gone.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that I'm not sure he's ever going to fully convince us all, because he's the young kid that's worked his way up in the office and is now in charge. But we remember him when he was a young kid because he's one of ours, right? And he's one of those. When you have some players like that, they never quite convince you. If we bought him for 30 million, then I think people will give him a better chance.
Well,
right?
I'm just surprised. It's the weird thing. I mean, Clive, we were kicking it long and he was putting his back in defenders and pulling it down and holding it up. I mean, Aubameyang doesn't do that at all, and it's weird to see your sort of left winger do that. But that's the role he was playing. He was the outball.
Yeah, he played striker like much of the players that come through the academies. He was a striker. He played up front. He played back to goal. He played that loose striker, lone forward. He's played 10. He's played both sides. He's a rounded footballer, and he's got a lot of strengths. And if I was ever coaching him, I would just wouldn't let him do much else. I would just get him to carry the ball 15, 20 yards, do a little shake and bake, and whip it into top corner. I'd get him to do that 20 times a session. Because if he gets that Coutinho right foot shot into the top corner, people will look at him completely differently, because he's doing everything else.
Or what about just hold it up, carry the ball, beat a man, and give it to someone who can do the final third bit? There's a role for that too.
He is a role for that, and he can go both ways, and he's doing that, like on the Torreira setup, right? But that shot he had against Spurs when he curled it and Lloris saved it, that's what he's got to work on. Because he has got the power to smash that shot in. He really has. And it's just next level for him. So if a player knows you're always looking to pass, they'll show you into areas where you have only to pass. He needs to say, no, I'm coming inside. I'm coming inside and I'm taking on that top corner shot. And that will come with a little bit more confidence. And I would work on that with him, because his crossing has improved, where we're having much better running lanes in the box. So your crosses always look better. He does the left foot cross flat. He does the right foot diagonal cross to the back stick. And he just needs to develop, I'm having this. And I don't care who, I can't see nobody. I'm taking it inside and I'm smashing this shot on target. Once you do that, you're a triple threat. You can assist off both feet and you can score off your right foot. Right? So that player is developing, and he's been one of our major developments this season. And it's strange, isn't it? A few weeks ago, when he was being overplayed, when Mkhitaryan was injured, he had no support around him creatively. He was in the hole that Aubameyang's in. And now, when he comes off the pitch, we miss him. And that's football. That's football.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about some of the players that maybe didn't have the day that we had hoped. And I think, look, I am a believer that you tend to have a reversion to the mean when it comes to certain statistical parts of your performance. So like finishing. Over the course of a season, you're probably going to finish about the way you always have. It's very rare that you have a wild statistical outlier from a finishing standpoint. It happens, but you don't see it very often. And right now, Aubameyang is in a rut finishing. My guess is he will come out of that rut, maybe get on a hot streak, hopefully, and go on to finish the season, at roughly his average conversion rate. But it's not the finishing. It's with the ball at his feet in this game. This was really worrying. There were a lot of counterattacks and a lot of attacks we had where he had the ball in space, people to give it to, or an opportunity to get a shot off for himself, couldn't get the ball under control, couldn't keep it, couldn't pass it, couldn't deliver in the right moment. And I'm just wondering, I always try to ask myself, is something purely confidence and mentality? Is there something physical there? It's never been the strongest part of his game, but coming off the missed penalty against Spurs and the way he played, it's hard for me not to connect the two. I saw a tweet that you wrote that I think is absolutely right. You said we have a big job to lift Aubameyang right now because we're not going anywhere without him. people want to bury this guy, but he does have a ton of goals this season, and if he doesn't continue to do that for us, we're going nowhere. So what's your take on Aubameyang, and what's the likelihood that we're going to see him break out of this?
Yeah, that tweet has already gone around. It's probably my most shared tweet I've ever done. I'd say it's just a simple one.
Out of principle, I won't retweet anything you say. See, I don't want to promote it too much because I want it to feel new on the podcast.
But that tells you everyone's thinking the same thing, right? So, and the worry is, you just look at his face, right? He's not there, is he?
Is that the first time this season when he got subbed off and that look on the bench that he's really looked like he was miserable? I mean, I can't think of too. I mean, he loves to score. If you had to play armchair psychologist for me, is that I'm miserable at the manager for taking me off, or do you think that's a genuine, I know I played like shit and I'm mad at myself?
I hope it's the latter, but with the history that he has had, there's an argument it could be the former, and I hope he's the latter, and I hope he's upset with himself. And I think it's something that we need to be very careful about, because we are going nowhere without him. He's a major force in that dressing room. He's a major force in that team, whether he's on the sideline or whether he's playing. Him and a few others have taken over that dressing room. So it's very important that he works for us. I think he's helping us transition. I think his goals are allowing us to have poor defenders at times, and I think he's incredibly important. And that sounds obvious. He's our top scorer, but it's incredibly important for not just what he does on the pitch, but how he presents himself and how he is. And I think if he's not where he is, he can be a draining influence on the team. And we can't have that because we haven't got 4 strikers sitting in reserve. It's absolutely massively important that he comes back. And I think it's important to such a point where I would think differently about the team we're going to put out against Manchester United. I would actually think very seriously about just like changing formation, just to make sure that we get this player back and his mate, by the way, who's also not at the top of his game right now, based on the
easy to forget because of the focus on the missed penalty in the game Aubameyang just had. Lacazette's coming off a game where he missed 2 sitters and isn't exactly in rip-roaring form himself.
Yeah, I mean, when you're ready to talk about Man United, let me know. But
we will. Yeah, let's get through this game. We got a lot more to do.
Okay. So I think this is something that we have to watch. And by the way, I don't want to go over the top of this stuff because I get shouted at if I'm talking about it too much. But
just send them my way. I'm used to it.
I just feel it's so. This is something that happens with strikers, and I just see other strikers like Salah, for example. He's a player that couldn't miss last season, and suddenly he's getting criticised for not taking his chances. And Liverpool are now behind Manchester City. It happens. So what job have we got? You know, we can't really influence the game. We can't influence the selections. We sometimes secretly feel we can, but we can't. But what we can do is support, right? And we can support this guy, and I think he needs it. I really do. And come Sunday, I hope he's playing. I hope he has a role to play, and I hope the reaction, which I'm sure it will be top, because that's what we should be doing as fans.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, so look, it was a game where I didn't think they had anything for us. I mean, they had a couple little counterattacking raids where there was some danger, but before the red card, you know, the thing that almost immediately to me let me know that we were in good shape was they were not with the highest line, but sort of a mid-line, but they were giving us space to run into, and they were giving us space to get in behind, and they weren't handling it well. And it's funny because Matt from Giant Gooner on Twitter did a really, really good tactical/statistical preview episode of Rennes, of the tie, using
I heard that.
Some
really
top
good
data. Yeah, really good. And he tweeted at me sort of early in the game. He's like, oh, God, I've gotten it totally wrong. Because in that preview, he sort of talked about all the danger they carry and the things we should worry about. Now, admittedly, he talked about how their defense could be gotten at, and we got at their defense just the way he said. But they weren't posing us any of the challenges. And then, of course, after the red card, we saw all of those challenges, particularly in the form of Sarr. But one of the things that struck me was just that old problem we've had this season where there are games where we just can't keep the ball. And I thought Granit Xhaka had one of his worst games in an Arsenal shirt after the sending off. First of all, he should have been red carded himself. You know, sort of typical brainless second yellow card that he could have picked up there. And since we're going to be playing without Socrates in the return leg, playing without Xhaka in the return leg, without Lacazette in the return leg would have been a big ask. It's already a big ask. I'm curious what you think happens to Xhaka in games like this where his radar's off, or he knows he doesn't have the time on the ball that he wants and he starts to make rash decisions. How did you see what happened? Because for me, this is a feature of his game, is having these games where every once in a while he just feels very panicked on the ball and can't find an Arsenal shirt.
There was. You have to remember there were 2 games, before the sending off and after the sending off. And before the sending off, we were fine. He was doing fine. I like that combination. That combination is still our best for me, depending on the day. If we're playing a 2 in front, and we had no problems at all. After sending off, what tends to happen is with players like Xhaka, who is a leader, he tries to do everyone's jobs. And when he tries to do everyone's jobs, maybe what happens is he's not quite at the pitch of the ball, not quite at the drop of the ball. And so he realises that we are stretched. We realise we have 10 men. And he tries to slow the game down by making fouls. His passing options are reduced. He loves to pass to Ozil. He loves to pass to Mkhitaryan. Well, Mkhitaryan was standing behind him. So that's that player gone. Right? So, and Aubameyang was not at his most engaging, shall we say.
Yeah.
If we're not, there were just some runs he was making. He was marking himself on runs. He wasn't separating as he normally does. He was just a little bit tentative, right? And I don't know why. And so you take away his options. That means what he tends to do then, he won't give the ball away. He won't overhit it. He won't hit channels and play that part of the pitch to say, well, it's up there now. I've done my job. He will turn out. He'll go backwards, he'll go square. Once he starts going square, he can make mistakes. He can get it wrong. He can give it away. And a lot of the goals he has given away, a lot of them have been when passing lanes have been blocked off and he won't make the pass. And so he goes square, or he gets his head down and he gets pressed. And so it's very important that when he's at his best, the 2 in front, if it's Ozil, Ramsey or Mkhitaryan or Iwobi, they're all available. And then he looks great because he can get the ball at pace to their feet. And everyone goes, what a great player Xhaka is. He controls everything. Well, he's always a controller, but it's his passing options. Are they there? Are they freely available? And they were not freely available when you've got 1 man less. You can't create overloads. You can't create separation. So you need a different type of game. And we just kept playing the same way. You know why? Because we felt we were better than them. So why change it? We'll get in eventually. But what happens is they got momentum. The crowd got even louder. Not that it was quiet for 1 second all evening. And eventually we started to creak, particularly in the left back area, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And I think, although Monreal, I think, had a great game against Spurs in a particular role, which is a tucked in left centre half, left back in a tight 4, we then pushed him out slightly, asked him to play an orthodox left back against a player that makes Theo Walcott looks pedestrian. Mm-hmm. Right? And I just felt this was a game for Kalashnik. And again, I think the Man United game was hovering over this game because I think Kalashnik will play on Sunday. And I think that may explain some of the substitutions as well also. There were some of the old flaws in this game that we criticized under Arsene Wenger, and for the 3rd goal to have that many people pushed up the pitch for a throw-in when you're 2-1 down and down to 10 men away in Europe. It reminded me a little of what we did against Monaco at home, where we got the game back to 2-1, which would have been fine and recoverable. And again, that was at home, so worse result. And then we throw it away and give them the cheap 3rd goal, which we did in this game. Look, I have some sympathy for this because I thought we were unlucky with the sending off. I thought we were unlucky with the first goal. That guy doesn't score that goal more than 1 in 100 chances. Yep. And the second goal is a fluky cross that Monreal puts into his own net that 9 times out of 10 that comes to nothing. Now, I think in both cases you can criticize the effort. No one really wanted to throw themselves in front of the first shot, and no one rushed out to block the cross in the second shot. And if there's one thing that I noticed on this night that really drove me nuts, when they had the ball in the final third, with chances to deliver crosses or balls into the box, no one was quick enough to step out and put pressure on the ball. And we gave them a lot of free looks at entry passes, passes into the box, crosses into the box. And that's how they got their second goal. I have a lot of sympathy for those 2 goals, though, because they could be classed as a little bit fluky, putting aside that we were under the cosh and they had 15 shots or whatever it was. The third goal I have no sympathy for. And I think we should at least touch on this.
Monreal, who's an extremely experienced defender, is all the way up the pitch in a situation where he doesn't need to be there, makes a bad pass, and throws a strop instead of getting back. Guendouzi, who I love, I have written glowing things about him. I've said glowing things about him on this podcast. He sees his man. He jogs back. Ramsey, the Guendouzi thing probably wouldn't have looked so bad if it weren't for Ramsey busting a gut and nearly getting back to break up that cross, which was an exceptional cross, by the way. Yeah. If Guendouzi runs 40% as hard as Ramsey does, he gets there. That goal is everything wrong with Arsenal over the last decade, and that is still wrong in our DNA. Being up the pitch when 2-1 would be fine, late in a game, down a man, lack of situational awareness, lack of professionalism by Monreal, lack of the energy needed by Guendouzi, lack of closing down on the other wing. Mustafi, I think, gets sucked too far into the center where he's got cover instead of spreading himself to cover the space a little bit. I'm not trying to kill the guy because people are going to say, oh, that's your Mustafi bias. Watch it. He goes to the man in the center who's covered instead of spreading himself to cover the wing. And, again, I'm not saying he's a primary responsibility, but there's some responsibility there. Clive, for you, is that goal a summary in a lot of ways of all of the flaws of Arsenal in terms of naivety, execution, effort, defensive awareness, all the things we have hoped would start to change for this club?
Yeah, well, players are thick sometimes, just to put it that way, right?
Fair. Yeah.
No, they are. You can be... I was coaching a game this year against one of our local rivals. We play a back three. One of our centre-halves goes to take a throw-in, which I don't like, because I like our centre-half to be in position. He takes a throw-in with a pair of gloves on, and the centre-forward runs through and scores. Because the gloves ball slipped out of his hand. I'm thinking,
yikes.
Bloody hell, right? And so it happens. Monreal, he should know better. Right, what's he doing up there? But you know what? I don't respect this team, so let me see what we can do. See if we can maybe do a little combination, get a cross in, see if we can get an equaliser. Just stupid, right? And the Ramsey Guendouzi thing. Well, I felt Guendouzi's. We're all fans. We all can see what we've got here. We all have to recognise he's still developing. Right? He was in this game. He was put in front of the French press before the game. He was held up as that Arsenal player in the press conferences. And he's come onto that pitch. We knew he wouldn't start because he's going to start against Manchester United. And I felt for the first time, I looked at him, I thought, mate, you're just having a little jog about. You think you've made it. You think you're it. And I thought his whole performance to me was not where it should be. And I hope someone has just told him that. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. Doesn't mean that all the people who don't rate him as much as other people are right about him. It meant he just had a bad 35 minutes where he didn't quite reach the levels he normally can. And I think he will reach those levels again at the weekend. We should hope so. And so what the difference there between him and Ramsey is that Ramsey could see where the overlap was. He could see, where the overload was. He could see it. He could sense it. And he thought, if they get that ball out to that winger, they're going to cross it to the back post. Let me see if I can get there. And that's what Guendouzi didn't have. He didn't sense it. And when it happened, he looked shocked. And that's the difference between a player that's 27, 28, about to go to Italy, that's played a number of times for his club and country and captained his country, the experience levels that he has of top-level football, versus a player that was a year ago was playing in League Two in France. That's it. And he could smell it. He didn't have the legs to get there, nor should he. But that Guendouzi won't get that wrong again. Right? So, and there was many times in recent history, by the way, and I would have pointed it out, where Aaron Ramsey hasn't quite refilled because he was caught up the pitch too high. And he's been criticised many times for it. The player now is much, in this role, he can see a lot more. He's tactically more aware. He's recovering better. He's being rotated. He looks fresher. And we're probably seeing one of the best Aaron Ramseys we've seen, and he's about to leave the club. Right? For me, that's what I think. Because I think he's learned, tactically, I think he's improved significantly. And so, yeah, that's where we are with those two players. I am more disappointed in Monreal, if I'm honest with you, because he should know better. The 19-year-old, I can wear that from a 19-year-old because I didn't know who he was a year ago. I did not expect this to happen. But it is indicative of our naivety. I can't say it as well as you.
I say it wrong every single time, I'm pretty sure. So it's fine. Naivete? I don't know. It's me. However you want to say it. Say it how you like.
It's unique. Right? That's it. And you hope that would be something would have gone. I guarantee if it was a right sided throw in and it was on the side where the coaches were, that Monreal wouldn't be that high up the pitch stupidly. Right? So it's just just quite frustrating, right? So we come away with a situation that we were totally in control of. 1-0 win at home, we go through. Now we've got to get a 2-0 win. I hope they don't score. Otherwise, we've got to score 4, and it's disappointing.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they score, 3-1, we get to extra time and penalties, which the crazy thing is we don't play again after the second leg till April 1st. So there's going to be a lot of ruminating. I mean, if we lose to United and get knocked out by Rennes, that's going to be a really bleak period. So let's hope neither of those things happen. The last thing I want to say on this game before we look ahead to United is just, I think for the most part, not in every instance, but for the most part, I think Emery has been a positive influence on games with his substitutions.
Yeah.
I think he may have potentially gotten every single one of them wrong in this match.
Agreed.
Now, I'm going to just give you my quick thoughts going through each one. I think taking Iwobi off for Guendouzi made no sense because Iwobi was our outball. I like leaving Aubameyang on to have a focal point. They're going to push up more. They're going to try to get on top of us, and we could get him behind. But we needed someone who could hold the ball up and relieve the pressure and maybe keep Sarr from just bombing forward. He brought on Guendouzi, and I mean, some of this is informed by what Guendouzi went on to do, but I think we totally lost the ability to control the play when we had the ball. We gave the ball back to them a lot quicker at that point. So I didn't love that. The thing that seemed obvious to me is just bring on Kolasinac, right? And bring him on for Ozil, potentially. And you go to a back 4, a midfield 2, and a front 3, right? You have Mkhitaryan and Iwobi who can drift central and give us more of that compactness and control. Aubameyang who can run in behind. You still have Xhaka and Torreira in the middle of the pitch. And you're fine. And you have balance. And you lose Ozil. And I wonder if some of the decision not to do that was informed by trying to rehabilitate the relationship with Ozil there. Yeah. And maybe it was. But then in that case, maybe you have to sacrifice a Mkhitaryan or something like that. But not Iwobi. Not the one guy who can really hold the ball up. So he gets that one wrong for me. The Ramsey for Ozil swap, I guess okay. At that point, fine. Maybe I'm being harsh on that one. The Mkhitaryan for Kolasinac, it was too late and it wasn't the right one. We still needed danger up there, and once we had no top, once we took the top off, and Mkhitaryan's playing fullback, and we lost any sense of how we were going to get out from the back. So I thought all the substitutions served to put us under more pressure and eliminate our threat on the counter. So I mean, for you, how would you like to have seen it go, and do you feel equally critical of the way he responded?
Yeah, very much so. And I think he got everything wrong on this one, right? So what I would have done, right? So he's got to stay with back 4. It wasn't a day for wing backs, right? So back 4. You got to say to yourself, which side is more of a threat for me? It's the left side, our left side. So you got to bring on Kalashnik in that and move Monreal inside one and keep your back 4 that shape, right? You go 4-4-1. You keep your wide areas. You have Mkhitaryan, Iwobi wide, Xhaka Torreira in the middle, Aubameyang up top. What happens is you have outballs, you got people in strong areas, you got hard-working wide men, and you got your shape. There you go. You've now got a problem. Right? So we didn't do that. And when you take off Ozil, not because he wasn't playing well, but you take off your worst defender. That's what you do. And someone will say, well, we need control. No. You take off your worst defender. You discourage them. And he is our worst defender. It's just the way it goes. We took off Robert Pires at the European Cup final. He was our worst defender. We had to take him off. Lundberg stayed on because he was harder working, right? So that's just football. We didn't do that. We didn't do that at half-time. So there goes the first mistake. So he's come back on now. Mkhitaryan's to a right back. So we lose one of our most informed players by positioning him deep, right? So that's crazy. Crazy. So we lose that progression there. So we've now lost our control of the game anyway. So now we try to get control back. So we're now reacting to the first mistake. The first mistake, we get a fullback on, right? Their errors, their pressure is in the wings, right? So get a fullback on. This is a game for fullbacks. They've got dribblers all over the pitch. They've got no physicality. They're just ball carriers and dribblers. I need fullbacks on who can tackle, right? So now he's reacting to the first mistake, but he still doesn't react correctly. He brings on Guendouzi because he lacks a bit of control. So he drops him in front of the area where they're going to threaten. Well, you know what, mate? Iwobi could have done that job just as well. And when he runs out of legs, I can still see what you're trying to achieve. I could drop a Maitland-Niles in front of him and say, just stand in front of Monreal, give him some protection. I need to save Iwobi for the weekend. No problem, done. So he just did not use his substitutes right. And then when Aubameyang is flagging in the last few minutes, just put Nketiah on up top. Put him on at top and just get some fresh legs in behind, someone new for them to see they haven't seen before, and get him to run around like crazy and put pressure on and just make runs down the sides, give us the outball.
Is it fair to draw a sort of interesting comparison with United, who in a very big spot in an away match in Champions League trusted some of their young players to come on and do the job?
They got a kid called Chong and a kid called Mason Greenwood. And I know I've been watching these two players in the background for a while, and they are killing it under 18s. I mean, absolutely killing it. They knocked Chelsea out the FA Youth Cup this year, and Mason Greenwood scored a hat-trick. Chelsea won the FA Youth Cup for 5 years on the trot. This kid is like the new Robin Van Persie. He's going to be very, very special. They've just thrown him in. So now they've got a new player that their fans are excited about. They've got a new player in their squad, and they are buzzing to come down to us. What have we done to Eddie? What have we done to him?
Well, let me just stop you for a second. Look, I'm not saying Eddie deserves anything, and I'm not saying that his development should be our priority in a big game, but certainly, the willingness of Solskjaer to say, we need you here, next man up, we trust you, and Emery's unwillingness to do that, I think you can certainly draw a contrast between the two.
Yeah, I think, me, Elliot, I'm a huge fan of Emery. I like a lot of what he
I'm not
does.
trying to kill him. It's just, it may have been a mistake.
Mate. When I felt he got that wrong. I really did. Based on his rules. You've heard me say this about the hierarchy of the dressing room so many times. Based on his rules, he got that wrong. He should have trusted him. And what is he going to... There's no risk there. There is only something to gain. There's only something to gain, and he didn't do it. And that was poor. And I just wonder... I haven't seen that from him, to be honest. People can disagree with his decisioning. They can say in hindsight he should have done that. But I can always explain why he's done something. I literally cannot explain why he did what he did. Unless he knows there's some data or there's a pending game that he has a plan that he wants to save people for that I'm not aware of. If looking at this game on its own, he got it very wrong. Very wrong indeed.
Yeah, I certainly think so. Well, I want to save some meat on the bone for Paul, who'll be up shortly with his section. We're going to talk a little bit with Paul about rescuing the second leg and some of the individual performances as well, and tactically what happened in a slightly different way. But before we do that, I want to give you a chance to talk Man United just quickly. For you, Clive, this is obviously a massive game. And just really quickly first, in your estimation, which is the bigger game now? The return leg against Rennes or the United game?
For me, I don't want to sound like a manager, but for me, it's the Man United game. That's the game for me.
So, well, let me put it this way. If I could give you a draw against United and progression against Rennes, or a win against United and elimination against Rennes, which one do you think would leave us feeling better as a club and in a better position for the remainder of our season?
Well, that's tough, right? Because I always take the Man United game, the next game. You win the next game, then the Rennes game takes care of itself.
Well,
it
still
really
a big
does.
task, but yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, it really does. And you just win the next game. And for Arsenal people, to have 60,000 at the Emirates, live on TV in front of the nation against the most confident team in the world right now, they can't seem to do anything wrong. We were to beat them and beat them with the right level of performance. That would have a massive impact on our momentum that will allow us to sort Rennes out. Right, so I think we need this. We need this. We had a good performance last week against Spurs. Didn't quite happen for us when it came down to the final act. But I think we need to take United. I think it's a statement win that Emery needs. He needs one away, but he needs one at home as well.
Are you worried that we knackered Mkhitaryan in the Rennes game because he's such an important player for us? How do you see him setting up, and how are you feeling about how that game's going to pan out?
I've thought about this a little bit, right? So Manchester United have a formula against us. What they tend to do what we did at Spurs actually, be quite compact, have a flat back four, have defensive solidity in the centre of the pitch, and they spring into the green grass as soon as Arsenal get overconfident and they break on us and score. Right? I went to the cup game. I saw the difference in athleticism, in pace, in that game. We were very unfortunate. We lost both our centre halves, so we looked old. We looked old in that game. We didn't look fast at the back, right? So what would I do, right? So in this game, I would tweak it slightly. I would think about what we just spoken about, where we are mentally, where we are confidence-wise. And when you've got a team that's lacking a little bit of that, I would close the distances. So I would go 4 diamond 2 in this game, and I would play Aubameyang and Lacazette. The reason why I play them together is I feel they need each other to spark off emotionally. I wouldn't play one. I don't think either of them can carry the burden at the moment. Now you should be saying, "Oh, Clive, they're £90 million worth of player. They're 200 grand a week, whatever their money is. They should be able to handle it." Well, we can see they can't. So let's act. Let's get them on the pitch together so they spark off each other. I'd have Ramsey in behind, and I'd have Xhaka, Mkhitaryan, and Iwobi in almost like a diamond shape, in a 4, in a tight, holding the centre of the pitch, not allowing Pogba to break through us and run into and connect with Rashford and Lukaku. They're going to go 4-4-2, Rashford and Lukaku up top. If they get Martial onto the bench, they'll bring him on late to add more pace. And they're going to get Herrera and Matic back in that team. They won't have Lingard. So they're going to be solid in the middle, and they're going to break to 2 forwards who are high in confidence, who are quite athletic and quite fast. They're going to go back to front. So I think it's very important we have 3 tight in midfield to get the second ball, and we don't give Pogba the room to run the game like he did in the cup game. And that's how I would do it. I would also, Elliot, it sounds crazy, I wouldn't worry about controlling possession. I would give them a lot more of the ball than they feel comfortable with. Use the fact that they're comfortable and they're confident and give them the ball. And I would return the favour on them. I would break on them. Because I don't think they're very good at the back. I still don't think they're very good at the base of midfield. But they're confident as a club. And I think you have to go for that. You have to go for that. And the only way to go for that is to score against them and to threaten their back line. And we have to have our 2 forwards on the pitch and have Ramsey disrupting the game by giving him to say, you go where you like. You go where our 2 forwards are not. And you make sure you work back in on Matic and work back in on Herrera and spoil. And then we have progression in tucked in wide areas and targets to pass to. And whether it's Guendouzi, whether it's Xhaka, Guendouzi and Mkhitaryan, or Xhaka, Iwobi, Mkhitaryan, I don't mind, as long as we have the ability to spring out from our defensive zone and carry the ball. I have a preference for Mkhitaryan and Iwobi and Ramsey. And people might say that's quite attacking, but I don't care. I think it's very important that we go for them and we don't sit off. We don't sit off them. We'll have the ability to threaten them. Don't sit off them and have defensive players that can't travel in your team. And so that's my theory, Elliot, for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, so the one thing I'd say, Clive, I mean, look, I assume you watched the United PSG game?
I did.
I don't think they were good. I really don't think United were good. I mean, they got the handball VAR call, which was kind of fortunate. They scored from 2 totally unforced errors. PSG were camped in the final third and had all kinds of opportunities to pull them apart and just didn't execute. Yep. And it's not like United played some brilliant counterattacking strategy. I really think they just kind of got away with it. And in football, every once in a while that happens. But to me, they are vulnerable. They are vulnerable if you can get it into the final third and force them to defend in a low block. I don't think they're very good personnel-wise defensively. I think they're vulnerable. Now, De Gea can make up for some of those flaws, as we well know. Yep. But so Emery's going to be in a really tricky situation here because he's going to feel shell-shocked from what happened against Rennes. But I think an aggressive approach, a pressing, attacking approach against United, I think is the way to go. I think we can be better. Now, look, Pogba coming back in changes a lot. He's a very hard man to press. He can beat 2 men, with the ball at his feet, keep the ball well, and spring a counter. So that changes things from the PSG game, I admit. But, I do think you can pin them back. I do think they're vulnerable and they're at center back. And, I hope that he won't be shell-shocked by Rennes. And, I don't think we're as good when we play two strikers, so I do think he's just going to start with Lacazette, but I'd love to see maybe even Ozil, Ramsey, and Mkhitaryan, or Iwobi, Mkhitaryan, and Ramsey, I guess, would do it. I hope we go for it. We're at home, in front of the home crowd. Everybody needs a lift. I think their vulnerability is at the back. We're not a team that can, play for a 1-0, so I think we need to test them, because the PSG game just reminded me that United are not great defensively, and I don't think we have a lot to fear from them back there.
You know what, mate? I know what you're saying, and I feel the same, and that's the fan coming out in you, right? I hear what you're saying, but I've watched these games so many times. I've watched Manchester United players with 7 defenders in the team and still beat us 2-0.
Well, that was Ferguson's United. That was different.
Yeah, and he's going to follow the same formula. Just wait. They're stupid. They'll do something wrong. We'll play for their mistakes. And we just think, yeah, they're vulnerable. Let's just go for them. How many times have we seen them running and we're running back after them and they go and score? I've seen it so many times. It's time to do something else. I tell you, I've always criticised Manchester United with their John O'Sheas and their Wes Browns and Yi-Sung Park.
Smalling and Phil Jones. And good God, they're all terrible. How do they win games?
I think Yi-Sung Park, he's got 6 Premier League medals or something like that. Gary Neville's got 8. I think so it's like, come on. But they keep doing it, and they know what Solskjaer's done. He's refound their identity, and they know their badge. And you're not playing those players anymore. You're playing Manchester United again, and they fancy themselves. They feel themselves, and they're going to come and do what they always do to Arsenal. They've beaten us 6 times at the Emirates. I've seen a lot of them myself, and I'm telling you, I know. And I said to myself, after that cup game, I said, when I get on that podcast for Manchester United again, I know exactly what we mustn't do. We mustn't play a back 3 and give them the sides. We mustn't play a back 4 unless our fullbacks are going to stay in. If we play a back 3, that will go against the 2 forwards they're going to have, but we can't give them exit strategies. We can't give them easy out balls so they can get out and then press up from that position. We've got to have all our holes filled. So for me, it's a compact formation, because as a footballers, I think we have got better football, particularly at home. But our distances must be close, because that's when we are good. When we start rat-a-tatting the ball around in combination play and turning out of our spots and being dribbly in those central areas, I think we are good. But if we're too spread out in the 4-2-3-1, I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I can see him going to 3 potentially, but if it was me, I would go 4-2. I want to bring some of our players back, repair them by keeping our distances close. That's how I would do it. But let's see what he does on the day.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's funny, right? You look at this team, you look at this Manchester United team, and all these results they're getting. They got a 1-0 away to Leicester, where they were basically even on XG. They got a 3-0 to Fulham, where Fulham beat them on XG. They got a 0-0 to Liverpool, where Liverpool beat them on XG. They got a 3-1 to Crystal Palace, where Palace beat them on XG. And then the 3-2 to Southampton, where admittedly they blasted them. But and they got dominated on XG against PSG, who they beat. They are riding their luck, and I think their luck's going to come to an end. I have the weird feeling that we are going to absolutely smash them. I just think the regression is coming for them. Now, look, if you want to buy confidence and momentum, I get that it's all with them. Sometimes I think that can be an illusion that can hurt you too. Oh, we're flying high, nothing can hurt us. You play with that little bit of extra hubris, that little bit of extra belief that makes you think it's all just going to go right for you, when in fact you haven't been playing as well as you think. Sometimes you can win games you don't like. I look at it like with Arsenal, where we went on that long unbeaten run where we weren't playing great. When that run ended, boy, was that a harsh reality. That maybe we weren't as good as we thought we were. And I think that could be coming for United. It is such a big game, and I have the weirdest feeling. I could be making this up out of nothing. I think there's a small chance Guendouzi doesn't play.
Yeah, me too.
Just the way Emery is, he's trusted him all season. He may feel that Guendouzi let him down a little bit there in a key moment. He might just say, I'm sorry, but this is a teachable moment. And again, I'm not trying to kill Guendouzi. I just think, I said on Twitter that it was kind of a Danielson moment. Okay, that's going a little too far maybe, but it's the point that that's a moment you look at it and you go, okay, we got to make an adjustment there. And maybe that adjustment comes this weekend. We'll see. Give me a score prediction.
I think we're going to win 3-2.
3-2. Oh,
Yeah.
I wish I was a neutral because I don't want to live through that as an Arsenal fan.
3-2. And I predict I'm going to have a lot of drink. That's for sure.
I'll say 3-0 to the Arsenal. Just a smooth 3-0. I think they're going to get smoked. Smoked. Yeah.
I think the overconfidence, just like we were overconfident in the game, their confidence could not be higher. If we score the first goal, let's see how we go, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's see how we go. So.
We need it. We need it. So these next 2 games, man, oh boy. If we go into that long layoff, having been eliminated by Rennes from the Europa League and having our top 4 hopes basically ended by Manchester United at home, it's, I mean,
we're doing a few podcasts, that's for sure.
Look, I am always calm and measured in my reaction to things, but I'm not sure everybody else will be able to. Clive's on Twitter at ClivePAFC. Thank you, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Look, we're 54 minutes in, and I still got Paul to do. We're going to go about 20, 25 minutes with Paul. So we'll keep this one a smooth 80 minutes, which I think is perfectly warranted given what happened last night. So thanks for putting up with us. We'll take a short break. We'll come back with Paul, who I am reliably informed is going to have a very positive opinion of the game at Rennes. We'll talk to you in a moment. Stay with us. All right, we're back, and this time Paul is with us. You can find him on Twitter at PosInMyPants. Hello, Pos.
Woohoo!
Woohoo, indeed, or not so much. Let's see, is there any good housekeeping? There is some housekeeping. The FBAs, the Football Blogging Awards, are back. Last year, quite shockingly, I'm still not sure how this happened, we won for Best Podcast, fans vote. And like I said, I genuinely have no clue how it happened, except to say that your love for us is greatly appreciated and reciprocated. So it's back this time, since we are a smoothly running operation, a finely oiled machine or tuned machine or whatever we are. So the opposite of whatever Arsenal were the other night. If you go to arsenalvisionpodcast.com/FBAs, all you have to do is click vote and you're done. And you voted for us. Or you can go to the FBAs and vote for someone else. But could you not do that just because we need it? Because we're all very insecure and your love is all we have? That would be appreciated. We love you. All right, Paul. Before we talk second leg, which is where we're going to put most of our focus, maybe give me like your 90-second summary of what you think caused us to collapse so badly after going down a man.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a very apropos comparison. Somebody mentioned how Atletico Madrid handled being playing away to us in the first leg last year and going down to 10 men. And I guess the short version would be they handled it a lot better.
Did they, though, or is that narrative? Didn't we kind of hammer Atletico and just shoot ourselves in both feet like we always do?
Okay, so I guess I've never really argued with you on this because I know you've always felt that way. I always felt that Atletico Madrid were kind of letting teams do what they do, which is look really good and create opportunities and stuff. But you always got the sense that they were pacing themselves. I mean, there's risk there. But yeah, I thought even at the time, even Arsenal supporter that I was, even with all the good opportunities we had, I still kind of thought they were playing the sly, clever game, and they know how to do that. I mean, they've done that a million times where other teams look like they should have won a game. But
you know what's funny about you and me? Here's the irony, right? A lot of people cast you as sort of the positive voice who corrects my sort of negative inclinations. Mm. The irony is that that's not true. We just always see the exact opposite of what occurred, regardless of the situation. So if I feel things went pretty well, I can be pretty damn sure you saw it the other way.
Yeah. Well, the other thing we notice, you and I, is that you go into things much more optimistic than I am.
Isn't that weird? So I'm much more disappointed when they don't go well. Hence the reaction. Yeah, that's a good observation, actually.
And maybe it's just two sides of a coping mechanism. I tend to play things down, and that way I don't kill myself, top myself, and have a general meltdown on Twitter afterwards, Elliot.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen anybody do that. All right, so enough of the meta discussion of sort of my emotional frailties and what happened in the Europa League last year. You're not getting out of explaining what we did this year.
Look, I didn't hate his... Obviously, what the coach could have done was adjust the lineup and the personnel post, especially as we got to half-time with not a terrible scoreline. I happen to agree with them that Mickey on the right-hand side wasn't the worst decision ever. But when you put in Mickey and Kolasinac. It's a pretty attacking lineup. I know we were getting a lot of grief down Monreal's side. But with Ramsey and Kolasinac, two actually relatively attacking players, and you add on, you keep Mickey over on the right, that's not keeping it tight. And then there's just that naivety thing that Arsene used to always talk about. I mean, so many players forward, and I'm sure you talked about Ramsey and Guendouzi tracking back. I mean,
let me ask you about that real quick. What is the right level of being annoyed at Guendouzi there? You know, obviously the fire him out of a cannon into the sun is over the top because he's a 19-year-old with tons of talent who made a mistake and doesn't have a huge career of those kind of mistakes to lament. But like, what is the right level of disappointment to have in a young player who has played a lot this season and is a professional footballer getting done like that?
Yeah, I mean, I was furious at the time. Ramsey was pretty annoyed with him. Look, you can see early on he doesn't recognize where the danger is going to come from. You can see immediately Ramsey does. And that's the difference between the two players. I mean, there's talk of Ramsey closing him down by 10 or 20 yards. I don't think that's right. That they're kind of similar distances, but Ramsey's alive to what's going to happen. And Guendouzi's like watching it. He's just not switched on. So I hope that's a 19-year-old's error who would not, if they recognize the danger, sprint? He's only on the pitch 15, 20 minutes. He just doesn't see the danger.
It's tough for me, right? Because the angle of the TV camera certainly suggests that he sees it and he's like, I'm getting there. And I don't think he necessarily appreciates the extent to which he needs to be there. I think there's a part of me that thinks, look, Guendouzi is one of these guys that is good at cutting out passing lanes. He's not really great at marking. You know what I mean? So like, he kind of understands getting between a man and a ball, but he's not necessarily good at getting tight and staying tight to a man and sort of being man-oriented in his defense. And I think he was just kind of casually like, I've got this flank, kind of. You know what I mean? As opposed to like that.
The play goes down the other side, right?
Right. So what I'm saying is I don't think he looked at that player and said, that player is the danger and I need to go get him. You know, he's just kind of like, I've got this side of the pitch in case the ball comes over here, you know?
And Ramsey's got plundered. I mean, Arsenal's a great education if you're willing to learn. Ramsey's got plundered 100 times with that move. That's why he looks and says, holy fuck, I better get back down my side because that's where the ball's going to come in, and he wasn't wrong. And Guendouzi's like, oh, look, the ball's going down the other side. Maybe I'll saunter back and take up this space as the midfielders come in.
To be fair, he kind of did it for the second goal, too. He doesn't really close down the cross after the shots blocked on the second goal. But all right, well, without wanting to kill Guendouzi, I mean, do you think it is as simple as we were so dominant offensively and with our attack before we went down to 10 men that once we went down to 10 men, maybe the players and coach included kind of didn't take the threat seriously enough, quickly enough, and by the time we realized it, we didn't react?
It does feel we were abnormally attacking and positive in our attitude, which
ordinarily you'd like to see that.
Yeah, it was like we have them where we want them.
Well, and we did create some chances right after we went down to 10 men, which I almost thought was the worst thing for us in the end, because I think
there's merit to that. Yeah,
yeah, because it almost gave us a theory of like, oh, we can still do them, so let's keep going for it.
Yeah, and we did have our chances, and Aubameyang and Ozil took time to adjust to the right foot, etc., etc. I mean, we had our chances. Torreira had a great look at it. I think that might have been before we went down, man. But we could have, yeah.
What's your take on Aubameyang? I mean, he look,
a little off at the moment.
Yeah, finishing can come and go, but it's not just the finishing at the moment. It's the touch around the box. It's all of it. I mean, what's your feeling on where he's at and what it's going to take for him to get back?
He needs to give himself a kick up the arse. I mean, this isn't his first rodeo. He'll have had tough times before. He's 30 years old. He clocks 30, 35 goals a season when he plays every game up front. He'll get his arse together. There's his arse together. He'd get his act together pretty quick and keep his buttocks closed.
The guy who needs to get his arse together is the one that Socrates kicked right in it.
Yeah. So he'll get sorted. The question is, will he? Well, I guess very likely Lacazette is starting on.
Well, we're going to need Aubameyang for the second leg because there is no Lacazette. And this is one of those situations where, you look at it and you say, okay, well, now we have no Socrates for the second leg. And, we have no Lacazette for the second leg.
We don't concede in this game.
We're lucky to have Xhaka for the second leg, frankly, because he could have been sent off with a second yellow in that leg. So let's do this. Let's spend the balance of our time.
Mustafi too.
Yes, always lucky to have Mustafi. Let's spend the balance of our time talking about what your expectations are for the second leg and what you think we have to do. So first, let me ask you this. Scott at _that_crab, his analytics, his stats, his model has us at a 30% to go through. You said on Twitter you have us at 50-50. So what is your sense of whether we will go through or not, just generally?
Yeah, well, I just threw that out there for, I don't know. I was feeling like saying something. I think it's probably closer to 50-50, but we're the bad side of 50-50 because anything goes wrong, we're screwed. And I guess you feel a little more fortified defensively recently just because we've had a couple of games where our centre backs looked half decent, but now we're back to your old mate and Koscielny, or we go to three at the back. So it's going to be interesting we couldn't keep goals out with three at the back. So I suspect we're going to concede a goal somewhere in these 90 minutes. So we're going to have to get three up the other end against a team that's sitting deep. I would say it's close enough to 50-50, but the wrong side.
Do you think the fact that we got the away goal gives us the freedom to play a little more aggressively because, first of all, we can concede. It's not one of those things where if we concede, we need to win by 3 clear goals. We need to win by 2 goals. And even if we concede, that doesn't change. We need to go out and we need to go get goals. We need to score. And they did look vulnerable, very, very vulnerable, before we went down to 10 men. So do you think the right way to do this is say, look, had we not gone down to 10 men, we probably kill the tie that night. We were all over them. Let's just go play like we were playing when we had 11 men, be attacking, go with Ozil again, go with Iwobi again, go with Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang, and basically set up the same way, just don't go down to 10 men.
Yeah, undoubtedly. We got to go and get a goal early. It could make for a fairly nerve-wracking game, though, as soon as we get the first goal and then the second goal, because then it's piss to get off the pot time. And if we get anything wrong, it'll get lively. I mean, Ben Arfa looked really good in this game once we went down to 10 men, and I think that's very much Ben Arfa. The knock against Ozil could also be the knock against Ben Arfa, which is some games he looks up for it, but he kind of needs the ball and some space, and he likes a team that's only got 10 men. So it'll be very different. We'll pen them back. But I think there's going to be we'll be very positive and very convincing early on, and then there'll be this mental inflection point where we find out how committed we are to playing with character and personality, as Emery talks about, and how much we just want to survive and not concede at that point. So 2-0 is a very interesting scoreline where how long do you want to, if we got 2 goals up, that's a very interesting 45 minutes to come after that, if that's the scoreline you're on. One fuck up. They've shown what they can do off a free kick, so they don't need a lot. They've 2 or 3 guys who can do something with the free kick.
See, for me, I think you go out and you play as if you have to score 3 times. Now, that's never an easy thing to do. Very few teams score 3 goals in any game, let alone having to go out and score 3 goals. I think we have to play like we have to score 3 goals. I think the upshot of it is they do not defend well in numbers. They were not defending well when they were in their low block, when they were in their defensive third, they didn't look particularly organized. They have a lot of players that don't want to do that. Sarr doesn't want to do that. Ben Arfa certainly doesn't want to do that. The striker whose name is escaping me right now, he doesn't want to track back particularly. They pressed, I thought, fairly poorly when it was 11v11, and then when they had their tails up and they were up a man, I think they had confidence and they pressed better. But what I would say is, if they do have a defensive approach and try to protect what they have and invite us onto them, I mean, obviously the counterattack would be a worry, but I think that gives us the opportunity to play against their weakness. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think their strength is sitting in a low block. And I talked to Matt Giant Gooner on Patreon. He said, no, they like to press the wings. They like to press sort of in the middle third. They're not a low block defensive team, and that's not where they're good, and they give up, good chances from that. So I think if they're defensive, we could get on top of them early and create chances often. Obviously, a lot of it's going to boil down to whether we can get Aubameyang firing, whether we can get him, to start converting chances and playing like he's got his boots on the right feet. But I think we have to go for this. So, if you had to sort of take an early stab at how you'd line up for this game, would you basically try to go with the same 11 that we went away, just, sub someone in for Socrates?
I think so. I think.
Would you consider Kolasinac over Monreal, given that Monreal kind of went from hero to goat from the Spurs game to the away leg?
Look, I think it's very hard to be a fullback for Unai Emery. I was listening to Stuart Robson kind of saying about how our fullbacks, specifically Monreal, kind of give the wingers too much space, and then he was talking about Mkhitaryan in the second half not being a true fullback and not pressing his marker. But I think that's pretty much every game Unai Emery plays. He concedes the wings and keeps it compact in the center. And Kolasinac had a good game defensively, but in recent times he's been stronger defensively. Monreal's the better defender, and I think across 90 minutes I would not substitute out Monreal, even if we know he's going to be a target. At least you know where it's coming from. Generally, we don't press the wingers anyway. We keep it compact, and the goal that comes in off Nacho is kind of a broken play. There was only one moment in the game I thought, oh fuck. In fact, I said, oh fuck out loud, and it was just in that broken play because we were scrambling to get back and get some shape, and lo and behold, that's when they get their OG, and it had that moment written all over it. I don't blame Monreal for that at all. And so I'd keep four at the back, because I think if you play with three, then you seed the wings, which will play exactly into the way they want to play. And to your point, I think you go balls out with 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, probably 4-2-3-1, and get Ozil on the pitch, because we're going to have a lot of ball here. And it's interesting to see the tag teams play out with Ozil and Ramsey. We have a bit of a Guendouzi Torreira tag team from game to game two, so it'll be interesting to see who starts there. But I think you start with Ozil and you go at him, and we'll have a lot of possession, and you use it well, and you don't we can be patient. You don't overcommit, so that we keep our shape at the back. And so Monreal isn't scrambling, working out, does he close him down? Does he stay tight with the centre backs? And our centre back pairing won't be optimum. So I think you got to keep a bit of discipline at the back, be patient, and let the front six work their magic.
It's interesting. I think you can make an argument for the manager really needing to lean on Ozil and Ramsey the rest of the way, and really start to de-emphasize players like Guendouzi and Torreira. I think Torreira is 22 years old. He's in his first season in the Premier League with no break for the winter, and maybe that level is dropping a little for him. It's a tough lesson, the Premier League, your first season, especially for a young player and a player who's new to the league. Guendouzi's 19, and I think the same thing. The intensity of concentration and pressure. We've got a big break coming up after the second leg. But between Sunday and Thursday, I think maybe it's time to say, okay, look, whatever you think of Mesut Ozil's been there and done it before, everywhere, including the Premier League. He's been through the ringer emotionally, mentally, physically. Aaron Ramsey, well, we know he can run for days. I mean, he's just got a tremendous engine, as experienced as they come in the Premier League. When Mkhitaryan has that experience, maybe didn't play as much as he would have liked at United, but he's been here. I think you have to start to lean on some of the players that have experience in this league, experience with this team, and experience with this period of the season. And I'm starting to wonder if we aren't suffering a little bit with, players like Guendouzi and Torreira, whose levels may not be able to be sustained. Now, there may be just too much narrative in that based on one bad away game. I mean, we played...
I definitely differ on Torreira. We talked a little bit about the mental lapse of Guendouzi, and this is going to be a mental
Torreira hasn't been
game.
quite so sharp, though. I mean, has he? I mean, maybe just a step behind play the last few weeks.
I've heard that said, and I think there was a game or two where that was fairer. I thought he was really quietly excellent against Spurs in terms of his performance. I spent a bit of time just watching him when I did the old rewatch. And I think he was actually a very quiet big part of why we did so well against them, even though we were tending to kind of miss out the midfield and go long and move the ball quickly. His efforts, his winning back of the ball, I think was very important to us. And so, but whether we need him against Rennes, but if not him, then who? So I'd be very interested to hear how you'd line up your midfield against Rennes, because I'd have Xhaka and Torreira in there. And
I still think Xhaka and Ramsey can play in midfield. I don't know why we never do it. I know why people are going to say because Ramsey abandons the midfield. I think that's pure narrative. We beat Chelsea and City in a FA Cup run with those two playing in midfield. I realize it was with the back three. I don't know why people think he cannot play there. And then we could play Ozil, Mkhitaryan, and Iwobi up front in support of Aubameyang or Lacazette. Not Lacazette in the Europa League, but why not lean on the guys who've been there? Xhaka and Ramsey, Ozil, Mkhitaryan, Iwobi, and Aubameyang. Go with that for the home leg. Trust in the guys with the experience.
Okay. My concerns with it would be we actually saw a lot of Xhaka and Ramsey along the way. I agree with you. They did better in the Chelsea City kinds of games, but that's when the whole team was balls out pressing and getting at them. And this will be a very different kind of game, I think. And there'll be quite a lot of up and down the field. And I think Xhaka and Ramsey, the reason, although it's not a perfect game for Torreira, is he will be the one guy focused on position and discipline and covering. And watching exactly where the game state is at. So I'd be slow to let him go. I don't think it's a game for Guendouzi. And I'd look at the Ozil-Ramsey tag team option. I wouldn't have them both on the pitch at the same time. But I'd start with Ozil.
Yeah, no, the funny thing is it's tough because there's no perfect solution, right? I could sit here and say, trust the guys who've been there before. I mean, Xhaka was terrible after we went down to 10 men against Rennes. So just saying trust the guys who have been there. Well, the guys who have been there, like Mustafi and Xhaka and Socrates is certainly an experienced player. And, they were some of the guys that let us down. Aubameyang really let us down. And that is my concern for the second leg is without
Xhaka lost his head, didn't he?
He really did. He looked exposed, and he did what Xhaka does when he's exposed. He started kicking and grabbing, and instead of using his positioning and his feet to rescue him, he used his arms and his diving in, and it was just bad. He looked really unsettled by the whole thing. I think the question for me in the second leg is, I don't think they're very good, and defensively, I think they are going to give us the chances to get right back in it quick and often. Aubameyang is the goal scorer. Mkhitaryan can score goals. If you start with Ozil, he can score. Iwobi did just score, but I don't think you'd put your money on him scoring. The question is, are there enough guys you trust to finish? Well, if Aubameyang's on form, he can win you a tie all by himself. But in this form, it's a worry. So we just have to hope that he can get it sorted out. And I know there's some people that say form isn't a real thing. It is a real thing. Maybe it levels out and it changes. Because look, form is like momentum, right? You have it until you don't have it. And then when you don't have it, it's not a thing anymore, right? So you're out of form until you're in form. I get it. And all it takes is one game, bag a hat trick, and you're back in form. So Let's hope it happens on Thursday. If you had to guess, give me a scoreline for Thursday.
Fuck. I don't think we can keep a clean sheet. Do you?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
I do, yeah. What did they really do? I mean, the funny thing is they had 15 shots. 2 of their goals were fluky. I mean, a worldie off a rebound from a free kick and a really fluky Nacho Monreal own goal. Now you can say, oh, well, Czech kept us in it. I didn't see Czech make any save in that game where I was like,
that he should not have made.
That's the funny thing, right?
Good,
Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing Czech, but every single Czech save is a save that, like, if he hadn't made it, it would have been an absolute howler. So the only goal we gave up that was really of quality of their attack was the third goal. And yes, we could get done that way. I could absolutely see that. But it is a brilliant cross put right on the head of a guy who should have been marked. I mean, I think we can keep a clean sheet because I think we can batter them to the point where, they're just sunk deep enough and pushed back enough that we are able to keep them out. And sure, along the way, there might be some hassle. I am very curious to see if Leno starts the second leg. You might say, of course, it's not going to be Leno. It's going to be Czech. I think when the chips are down and everything is on the line, it'd be interesting to see if Emery sticks to his guns. But yeah, I could see us winning at 4-0. I really could. I don't think they can defend. And I think at 11v11, I mean, everyone was tweeting it. We're going to end the tie tonight. We should have. Mustafi had an easy chance. Torreira had an easy chance. Aubameyang had chances that went begging. The linesman cost us a chance. I mean, we'll need some things to go our way. You always do if you need that many goals. But yeah, I absolutely think we can do it. Let me ask you this. If we don't do it... go finish that first.
Yeah, 3-1 extra time. We'll definitely concede. We'll beat them in extra time. There's my...
You mean scoring in extra time, not going to penalties, because I can't handle that.
Yeah, scoring in extra time, we beat them. Ramsey, back heel in the 6-yard box with 3 minutes to go.
Love it. Okay. I have 4-0 to the Arsenal. Easy. Never in doubt.
Very positive, aren't you?
I always believe in us, despite all evidence to the contrary and proof that we are complete cunts, but whatever. Let me ask you this. Let's say we don't get it done and we go out. How big a disaster is that, and how big a blemish is that on Emery for us to go out in the round of 16 of the competition he's a specialist in to a team that is clearly inferior to us after a first leg where we not only reacted poorly to adversity, but where I think you could say Emery maybe reacted poorly to adversity too. I mean, with 2 weeks off basically after that, how big a problem is it, and how big a blemish is it for you? Where would you stand on Emery and his situation if we go out to Rennes?
It's a big psychological blow. I'm an underreactor on that kind of stuff. I mean, I always just keep checking the odds and reminding myself where we're really at on this. I mean, it's 11-2. It was going into this to win the darn thing. So it's got to be a little worse at this point. What are we? 9-1. Oh, there you are. So it's gone from 11-2 to 18-2 effectively. But if you go back to the first tie, it was 11-2, and you got to keep that in mind. And the top 4 is 50-50 ish.
But I'm not asking you about not winning it. I'm asking you about going out to Rennes in the round of 16.
Look, it's a big issue if you let it be a big issue, and that's mental. I mean, the one thing Pochettino did really well after we outplayed them at the weekend was to say they played better, it's all a load of bollocks. And he does this every time, and he changes the story, and he gets the mentality to how they're winners, not losers, and the rousing halftime speech. I don't think we're as good at that, and I don't think Emery will talk about process and things. So it'll be a big fucking deal if we get beaten by Rennes, and I think it'll impact us psychologically. It shouldn't, and we should just brush it off and move on with what's in reality our best opportunity to get into Champions League next year. But
the key.
It'll be a massive.
That's the key. So here's what I would look at. If we do go out to Rennes, it's calamity, absolute calamity, because any setback, in my opinion, is calamity. But Chelsea will be on to the next round. Spurs are on to the next round in the Champions League. United are on to the next round in the Champions League. It is as clear a path as possible. 2 weeks off, no more Europe, focus on the domestic competition, no more top 6 teams to play. We have it all there. Win the rest of your games in the Premier League in your top 4. That would be my belief.
I think that's a very good point, and I think that time off allows us to mentally regroup and refocus. So there's the plus side that I think there's a really good mentality if we can stay in the Europa League to say this is the English team's years in Europe, and with 4 teams in the Champions League, there'll just be a kind of an England fever for Europe, and if we can stay in the Europa League, I think our odds are actually better than they would have looked in other scenarios. So there'll very much be a view that kind of English teams are going all the way to the final. So we really got to beat Rennes, because I think our chances are a lot better than than they would have been at 11-2. I think it's really down to us and whoever if we can get our shit together.
Yeah, not to bring it all back to finances, but it is sort of what Arsenal is about as a fan these days, is understanding your accounting. That's really what made us all fall in love with the club in the first place. We got a lot of money from going to the Europa League final last season, because we basically got, the entire England pool of it, and we made it all the way to the final, or the semifinal. Good job, Elliot. But we got a lot of Europa League money. I mean, this will also hurt us in the pocketbook, in the purse strings, which is an area where we, could stand to benefit as well. So lots riding on this. I think if we go out at that point, it all becomes about whether we can use the advantage of not having the extra fixtures to dominate our way domestically in the top 4. If the season falls apart from there, I think Emery's going to be in a really tough spot. I think if we finish 6th and we go out to Rennes, I don't know. I don't know how tenable that is at that point. I think that's the kind of thing that can lose you the team, lose you the fans, and only a really big, exciting summer would turn that around, and I don't know where the money comes from for that, so we'll see. Always love to leave it on an up note, so let's leave it there. Paul's on Twitter at Positive My Pants. Thanks, Pause.
Woohoo!
Okay, my name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Give us a 5-star review. Vote for us in the FBAs, arsenalvisionpodcast.com/FBAS. FBAs. Or you can just tweet out the thing. There's a thing to tweet out. There's all kinds of ways to do it. We're going to have a YouTube live show with Scott before the next leg of the Rennes tie, and maybe Paul will join, or maybe Clive will join, maybe Tim will join. We'll have a regular podcast after the United game with Tim and Paul and Clive. We'll have Patreon in the Spotlight episode coming out. We have lots of Patreon content coming out during the 2-week layoff, so if you need more Arsenal and they haven't totally pissed you off, we'll have that stuff for you. We love you guys. We really appreciate it. The big game is obviously this weekend, so the Rennes tie will have to wait. Now all eyes turn to the hated enemy, United. I think we're going to do them, so up the Arsenal. In any event, we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, United 0.